Thank you very much for those inspirational words. It is now my honor to introduce tonight's guest speaker, Gellert Dornay. Gellert is a son of a Hungarian immigrant and a native Seattleite, one of 9 children raised in a home rooted in faith, education, and entrepreneurship. By the age of 21, he had already helped launch a boutique coffee roaster, attended 3 universities, gotten married, and welcomed his first child. He went on to help bring specialty coffee to the global stage with Java Trading Co., and later co-founded Axia Home Loans, where he served as CEO. Under his leadership, Axia became the first 100% employee-owned mortgage bank in the country, built during the Great Recession. A devoted Catholic, Gellert is passionate about promoting human dignity through the business and serves on several nonprofit and for-profit boards. He is currently the chairman of the board for the Society of G.K. Chesterton, an organization dedicated to advancing Chesterton's timeless wisdom and joyful defense of the truth. Gellert and his wife Elizabeth are the proud parents of 11 children, including 2 graduates and 2 current students at Chesterton Academy of Notre Dame in Spokane, where they now reside. As you can see, Chesterton Academy runs deep in his heart, and we know you'll hear that sentiment as he addresses us tonight. Please join me in welcoming Gellert Dornay.
Thank you, Cody. Can you guys hear me okay? It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to my dear friends, Tom and Martha Ritter. And thanks to all you beautiful people here tonight to put up with listening to me for a few minutes. I've been given the almost impossible task of fitting Chesterton into 19 minutes. And so we'll see how that goes. As Chesterton said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Thanks so much for the invitation to come share a few thoughts about the current state of Catholic education and how Chesterton Academy is providing a radically cool alternative, enabling parents to truly foster the faith in their kids. The theme for our dinner tonight, Hope for the Future, acutely defines the tremendous optimism you will head home with this evening. Not just a feeling, but the plan and resources to raise up the next generation of joyful leaders and saints. It isn't that they can't see a solution, it's they can't see the problem. Chesterton was a true prophet, and he saw 100 years ago the exact situation we find ourselves in today. In a recent keynote address to the American Classical Christian Schools Association in Washington, D.C., the new Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, argued that America has been in a 100-year battle for the minds and souls of our children, and that we've been losing. The numbers evidence this to certainly be the case. From a peak of 12,000 Catholic schools in 1965, we've seen a drop of over 50% to just 5,905 schools by 2024. The number of students decreased from 5.6 million to 1.7 million. As tragic as this number is, it doesn't tell the whole story. The number of very young kids now subjected to the invention of preschool has exploded, now representing over 10% of kids in Catholic schools. If we focus on the number of Catholic elementary and high school students, the decrease over the last 60 years is a staggering 78%. And though the percentage of Catholics in the country certainly has been decreasing over that period, the total number of Catholics in the U.S. has nearly doubled from 45 to 73 million. To add to these incredibly disturbing statistics, a recent survey suggested while merely 40% of public school kids profess a belief in God, Catholic schools fare a little better, increasing the number to only 45%. So why have Catholic students been fleeing? Is it for a more robust Common Core curriculum? Is it trade skills, the hard sciences? Are these kids no longer interested in their Catholic faith? And where are these kids going? Are they running from the high cost of tuition? Many likely are. But another statistic helps us to understand the reality of the situation. In 1965, the Catholic Church operated 89% of Catholic schools in the country. By 2013, that number has dropped more than half to just 42%. Protestant as well as secular private schools have rapidly grown in recent decades. They're attracting many parents who want a more robust curriculum and better formation environment for their children, and they're more than willing to pay for it. Further evidencing desire for public education alternatives, when surveyed, 36% of public school parents would prefer to send their kids to private. Secretary Hegseth encouraged the development of a counterinsurgency plan. We can't go to battle without a plan. Chesterton clarifies our Catholic mindset as we head to the battlefield. We don't go to war because we hate the people in front of us. We go to war because we love the people behind us. Chesterton is the solution. In fact, Chesterton Academy has been the solution for thousands of families across the United States over the last 15 years. There are over 1,200 alumni. There are now over 3,000 students currently enrolled in the 71 schools, which serve 76 dioceses. Another 22 schools are about to open their doors across the country. These kids attend over 11,000 masses over the academic year. 1 in 8 graduates, as you've heard, from Chesterton to the Twin Cities enter seminary or the religious life. And now Chesterton Academy is going international, with schools opening in Japan, Argentina, Brazil, Australia, the UK, and more. So who is Chesterton anyway? And why him to lead us back to common sense? Let's start with what Chesterton was not. He was not raised a Catholic. He was not an academic. He was not a scientist. He had no medical training. He was not skinny. He was not a historian. He was never religious. He was not smart with money and never cared to have much. He said to be smart enough to get all the money, you must be dull enough to want it. He wasn't a father, though he and his wife Frances dearly wanted children. He was not good with directions. He never served in the military, though his brother Cecil did. In fact, Chesterton was not really an expert on anything, and he vehemently critiqued the so-called experts. He believed that experts, by focusing intensely on a single field, became too much of an ordinary man in all other areas, possessing not just ignorance, but the most vulgar and sentimental ideas that happen to be common to their social clique beyond their specialty. We all too commonly hear the phrase, "That's beyond my pay grade," which is, of course, an excuse to refuse to acknowledge some aspect of common sense. Well illustrated by Barack Obama in 2008 when asked whether life begins at conception. That's beyond my pay grade. This concern about experts was highlighted by his satirical example of experts solving a lice infestation in London slums by ordering the schoolgirls to shave their heads, a solution he saw as an absurdity, missing the root cause, the very poor living conditions themselves. Chesterton warned that such reductionist thinking, treating symptoms rather than underlying issues, could lead to social absurdities, even suggesting that such logic may one day justify extreme measures like chopping down feet to fit new boots. He viewed the modern expert as a new kind of aristocrat, claiming authority not through wisdom or virtue, but through a specialized knowledge, a trend he believed threatened human autonomy. Chesterton argued that science and expertise should never be the final authority, but merely tools or toys, means to an end, and not ends in themselves. He emphasized that the true authority over how science is applied must reside with humanity, not with the tools or the experts. If there is a spiritual presence in the material world, physical science will not discover it. But if we do discover it, physical science will have no idea of what it means. Chesterton emphasized that science is limited to exploring the material world and cannot fully address spiritual or metaphysical realities. He critiques the idea that science can disprove concepts like God, miracles, or morality, asserting that such beliefs lie beyond empirical science's domain. He championed the amateur and the common person, believing that the wisdom of ordinary people gathered as a jury could be more reliable than that of a single expert in matters of profound human significance. Ultimately, Chesterton's concern was that people were abdicating their own judgment to the promises of science, allowing tools to dictate social and political decisions, which he saw as dangerous surrender to human reason and moral authority. It's almost as if Chesterton prophesied the whole COVID scandal. We all have our absurd COVID stories. I was playing in the soccer in the park with a bunch of kids, and a cop came to kick us out for violation of being too close together. Though I explained that they were all, in fact, my own children, he insisted we go lock ourselves in our home. I'm quite certain we would not have seen GK masked up and social distancing because the science is settled. The world has lied to us so many times. Chesterton saw it coming. He was a prophet. He knew the world would lose its common sense. He said that you have to stand on your head in order to see the world because everything is upside down. He said committing an act of virtue today has all the exhilaration of committing a vice yesterday. There's a scary moment just after you open the door for a lady, when you wait in trepid anticipation for either a smile or a kick in the shin. With no evidence, the scientists tell us it's empirical that Adam was born of a monkey which evolved from nothing. Chesterton didn't have his PhD, but he did state with great telling, "Isn't it interesting that those who suggest Adam was born of a monkey are the same ones that tend to act like them?" In 1891, Leo XIII and his groundbreaking social encyclical Rerum Novarum on the new things questioned the unintended consequence of the Industrial Revolution, the creation of an entire class of paupers, people who couldn't take care of themselves. Think of Oliver Twist or any Dickens novel. Alexis de Tocqueville saw the same thing some decades earlier, and in 1835 wrote a book titled Memoir on Pauperism. He noted the growing class in London of poor people who lived in abject destitution. He visited Portugal and didn't see the incredible wealthy factory owners, but he didn't see anyone starving in the streets either. Chesterton argued humans should not be guided by atheistic communism or some invisible hand, but by the principles of our Catholic faith. He and a couple friends, Hilaire Belloc and Father Vincent McNabb, formed an economic theory called distributism. They conjectured what a civil society might look like, guided by the church's principles of social teaching, solidarity, subsidiarity, the common good, and human dignity. Promoting such ideas and broad participation in ownership of homes, where Chesterton says is the only place where a man can truly be free, and broad ownership in the means of production, the businesses. He emphasized what Leo said about an employee being reduced merely to a wage slave. Chesterton's ideas inspired my own decision to sell our company, not to private equity, but to the 400 employees themselves. And now Leo XIV is picking up where his namesake left off. We have a new thing in artificial intelligence. He said we must work to ensure it does not become a god and enslave humans. I was wondering what Chesterton might say about AI. So, of course, I consulted AI. And according to Perplexity, while Chesterton appreciated creativity and art as the signature of man, he saw mimicry by machines as missing the deeper point of human uniqueness. He would likely be wary of artificial intelligence, not because it is inherently evil or affronts divinity, but because its unchecked acceleration could undermine meaningful aspects of our humanity. I'll be in Rome in a couple of weeks with a company we're involved with called Magisterium AI. We're hosting a conference of about 200 thought leaders from the church and various industries on how best to deal with AI. Chesterton wasn't really an expert on anything, but he writes about every subject under the sun with great clarity and joy and understanding of the human person and a relationship with God and with one another. He did, in fact, make it into the Catholic Church. He called it the thing, the Catholic faith. It is either irrelevant everywhere or relevant everywhere. One of my favorite books of his is called The Thing. And this is the perspective we need to pass to our children, that our faith is relevant in music and drama and math and history and in our love for every human life. And this was the purpose behind Chesterton's extensive writings, to share the truths of our faith. He was incredibly humble and showed great empathy to his enemies. He never boasted or took credit. He writes about his younger brother Cecil's journey into the Catholic Church. He attempted to explain the changes in his brother's political beliefs. Thus, he came to suspect that socialism was merely social reform, and that social reform was merely slavery. But the point still is that though his attitude to it was now one of a revolt, it was anything but a mere revulsion of feeling. He did indeed fall back on fundamental things, on a fury at the oppression of the poor, on a pity for slaves, and especially for contented slaves. But it is the mark of his type of mind that he did not abandon socialism without a rational case against it. The theory he substituted for socialism is that which may for convenience be called distributism, the theory that private property is proper to every private citizen. This is no place for its exposition, but it will be evident that such a conversion brings the convert into touch with much older traditions of human freedom as expressed in the family or the guild. And it was about the same time that, having for some time held an Anglo-Catholic position, he joined the Roman Catholic Church. Chesterton, of course, had tremendous influence on his younger brother, but would not take credit for helping shepherd his way into the church. In the 80s and 90s, my mother would invite speakers to our home to share their insights on culture and on the Catholic Church. She hosted debates on evolution and reflections on great authors. One of these wandering mystics was Dale Ahlquist. I was maybe 16 at the time, and initially considered Dale some weird bookworm guy in a funky hat. But my curiosity was piqued, and I followed him and Chesterton for decades, albeit at a bit of a distance. And I've read some Chesterton along the way, and even have been making attempts to incorporate aspects of distributism in my business and civil endeavors. Dale has been a Chesterton evangelist for something like 40 years. The society started as a book reading club, forming adults in their faith through the writings of G.K. 15 years ago began the introduction of Chesterton to a younger crowd when he opened the first Chesterton Academy in the Twin Cities. Quite unexpectedly, dozens of families have come to Dale to help in starting their own Chesterton Academy. Brave and capable families that refuse to follow the secularization of the world. Parents who take seriously their role as primary educator of their children. Parents alive with their Catholic faith. Chesterton said a dead thing goes with the stream. Only a living thing can swim against it. We don't need a church moved by the world. We need a church that moves the world. Kids may stop going to church in college, but they stop believing when they're about 13. They step outside the home and encounter a worldview different than what mom and dad present. At Chesterton, they are affirmed in the faith of their family. This past spring, we graduated 12 young men from our Chesterton Academy in Spokane. 3 of them entered the seminary. 2 from the class last year have already entered. Our Jesuit prep school graduates thousands of boys over the last 50 years. Only 1 entered the seminary, leaving after a year. You've heard from Martha and others about the great teachers and headmaster and curriculum and fellow students at Chesterton Academy of Utah. Your financial support, prayers, and encouragement are imperative to maximizing the impact our kids will have in their marriages, families, jobs, and community for the generations to come. Each school raises about $300,000 a year to subsidize the low tuition cost. That's $30 million per year right now. And we see a path to 1,000 schools by 2040 and an increased need of 10x. I'll finish with the story of David Frank. His family moved from Seattle to Spokane so that he could finish his junior and senior year at Chesterton Academy. As you might imagine, this teen boy was not too happy about leaving his friends and moving to some podunk town to attend a small school full of freaky Catholic people. But just a few weeks after arriving in Spokane, David's father unexpectedly passed away. It was a difficult time for him, and he was a bit lost as to dealing with the situation. However, he was met with such great love by the fellow students and faculty that he decided to dedicate his own life to sacrificial love, and upon graduation, entered the seminary. Thank you.